It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions.
Touchdown, San Diego!
Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do. Good morning, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host John Riley. We welcome you to a pregame edition. It's the opening day of the baseball season. It's D-Day in college basketball. We're broadcasting from the DIXIELINE Lumber Home Center Studios in San Diego. We'll be here for the next hour. We are going to set the stage for March Madness, Aztecs basketball, UConn, set the stage opening day for the Padres, the Dodgers, the Angels, and we will give you our thoughts, our baseball preview. Our Thursday podcast, going towards a great sports weekend, is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. There are 9 stores in San Diego. You have projects in home, out on the patio, around the pool, or at work. Think DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. And by North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido. When you have needs for your eyes, whether it's exams, contacts, glasses, or something much more significant, think of them. North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido. John Riley, what a great day in San Diego.
Yes, it is.
Padres opening day. Aztecs D-Day, college basketball. Boy, have we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, unbelievable amounts. This is, you say San Diego sports is a big day for both teams.
And a reminder, because we're launching live with kind of a pregame show on Thursday, our fans forum chat box will be open. John, just quickly explain how people who watch us on the live screen can then participate right at the end of the show.
Yeah, sure. So if you have a question or comment for Lee, drop it in the live chat on Facebook, YouTube, or X. We'll get you involved in fans forum. Maybe you got thoughts on the Aztecs against UConn, about Major League Baseball opening day, but it's your chance to get involved.
And Major League Baseball preview, we're going to go division by division today on our Thursday podcast. John, topic 1, what do you want to cover?
We got to go. The Aztecs here, huge game in Boston.
San Diego State against UConn. Aztecs, back where they were a year ago when they played UConn in the national championship game. UConn, #1 in the nation. Great storylines. Matchup of really great coaches. Matchup of some big-time players. You got teachers, you got motivators, you got the battle of the big men. Those, to me, are the storylines as they play late Thursday afternoon in Boston. Brian Dutcher, the doctor of defense in college basketball. His career record at San Diego State is 177-57. 9th ranked in the nation on defense, scoring, turnovers, and steals. 4 times the Aztecs have been to the Sweet 16 with him. Last year, obviously, Final Four championship game against UConn. Then there's Dan Hurley. What theater, what passion play on the sidelines. A record of 137-58 at UConn. Huskies, 5-time national titles in 25 years. 81 points per game on offense, #1 in the nation. Defensive efficiency, phenomenal, 63 points per game, the #8 in the country defensively. They shoot 49% from the floor. Their opponents shoot only 39%. They shoot 36% from the three-point line. They're averaging 38 rebounds a game, 18 assists per game. Defense forces 10 turnovers a game, 5 block shots per game. That's 15 possessions you don't get any points on when you have the ball against UConn. 33-3. 21-1 since December. Now, we've been impressed with San Diego State, John, and what they've done in Quad 1 games that got them the seeding they got. How about this? UConn wins against North Carolina, Texas, Gonzaga, Creighton, and Marquette twice.
Oh, my God.
That's pretty doggone impressive. Jaden Ledee in the tournament. Nobody's talked about this. 2 games so far, 20 of 30 shooting, 15 of 18 from the free throw line. Ledee is averaging 29 per game and 8 rebounds per game. UConn's got talent everywhere, and they're all productive. Tristan Newton, the guard, transfer for East Carolina, 15.6 rebounds per game. Cam Spencer, transfer Rutgers, the other guard, 14 points, 4 rebounds game. Sophomore 6'8" forward Alex Caravan, 13 points, 4 rebounds per game. Donovan Clingan, 7'2", 280, only a sophomore, 12.7 rebounds, 2 block shots. He changes everything defensively. John, the keys to the game, it's on the backcourt at San Diego State. Aztecs must defend starting out at the arc to disrupt what they're going to try to run at UConn. They have to bust their rhythm. And the Aztecs guards have to hit outside shots to loosen up that defense. If they can do that, that will give Ledee room to move around the paint. I don't think Ledee's going to be able to score on the low post and the block because of Callaghan. But Ledee can shoot from 12 feet out, side of the lane, from the foul line, in the paint, if they can get their defense moving. So I think the most critical thing is how they defend and slow down UConn's offense. Can the Aztec guard shoot? And can they create plays that allow Ledee some breathing space to hit outside shots? Because I think that's going to have to be his game today. That's my scouting report. You want to talk coaches? You want to talk philosophy? You want to talk about personal matchups? John, what's your game plan?
Okay, well, we could talk about clam chowder in Boston. The Aztecs are going up a big hill here, and everybody's saying UConn this, UConn that, and their offense is so intricate, and they've got all these peel-offs of all these different versions of sets they run. It's going to be hard. Okay, we know that. But I'll tell you what, we need revenge. Not necessarily on last year's championship game, but I go back to that Kemba Walker game with Jamal Franklin, and that was a flop, and that was provoked, and it was awful, and we need payback. Aztecs, if they played like they played against Yale, hit the threes, play good D, I give them a 1-3 chance to win. It's still going to be tough. Cross country, everything is stacked against the Aztecs. But boy, if they could pull this off, what a miracle that would be.
These two coaches, they're pretty doggone good. Very different styles. I mean, you look at the UConn bench, and Dan Hurley is going up and down the floor, and he's barking at the refs, and he's barking at his players, and he's lecturing his bench. Brian Dutcher, calm, cool, collected. This is the game plan. This is what we have built here at San Diego State. Let's just go play the game, do the best we can. He is polar opposite of what Dan Hurley is.
Yeah, it's going to be fun watching those guys up and down the sideline, barking and things. I love that part of the drama. But you get the early game on Thursday. They had the early practice yesterday. They got there late for it. They're going to be exhausted. And yeah, I mean, like you said, the arena is going to be chock full of Connecticut, New England people.
Short work week. I don't quite understand why this has to be the 4:30, 4:40 p.m. game. Why could it not be the late game on the East Coast? Because they put San Diego State at a disadvantage. They go Spokane to San Diego to come home on a chartered flight and get home at 4 a.m. on Monday, have a team meeting Tuesday, a limited practice, game plan, left early, changed their mind, left early, then went Wednesday, practice there, and now they're playing first game in. So to me, it's a huge challenge for SDSU.
What do you think about Dan Hurley? He's still got this chip on his shoulder. They're scheduling us for the early game, and it's UConn against the world. And what do you think of that?
Well, they're in grudge mode because 5 championships in 25 years, hell of an accomplishment. But they don't seem to be getting a lot of national recognition. It's kind of a UConn Husky basketball. It's a Northeast thing. I mean, they're not spoken in the same terms of what North Carolina with Duke has been.
So not a blue blood.
No, that's the word. Not a blue blood, even though they wear blue and white. So they're just kind of in grudge mode. But the top 4 seeds in the tournament are still there. So this will be fun going forward. Okay, we go from that. We got Aztec basketball late afternoon. We got Padre baseball opening day of the season against the Giants, and we're going to break down the Padres, the Dodgers, the Angels, and then we're going to go division by division for a baseball fan. Let's talk about the Padres situation. Pitchers' health, replacing bats. Good headline there, John. I think those are the 2 most critical things. Is Yu Darvish? Can Joe Musgrove be Joe Musgrove, considering the physical issues that hampered them at the end of last season that knocked them out of the rotation, and the fact that they did not dominate at all during the course of spring training? And the other piece of the question, Juan Soto, different lineup. Will guys around him who didn't hit very well last year be able to hit with Soto not there? That's a big issue. Fascinated to see about Jackson Merrill, opening day pitching. National League schedule is going to be different from what he faced in the Cactus League, but he did hit 300 in spring training. Yeah. Manny Machado is going to DH. He has had a bit of a setback trying to throw from third base in limited practice. They shut him down. He is going to probably DH for maybe the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season as they work him back into a throwing regimen. Have to be very cautious there. And a wild card statement. Can Fernando Tatis revert back to being a superstar rather than just being a good player? You know, he 2 years ago, prior to the suspension, he hit 42 home runs. He was hitting the 270s with 42 bombs. Suspension, came back, only hit 257 last year, only hit 25 home runs. Now, granted, he's playing a different position. There was a learning curve there. He, to me, doesn't quite look like the same player that we saw coming up and we saw 2 years ago before the PED suspension. So those are my storylines at the front of the rotation. How do you hit with Soto not being part of the middle of the lineup? And then the questions about Machado, or am I wrong on Tatis? And John Riley says
Tatis is going to have a bounce-back season. I mean, you know, because last year he was just trying to get back, right? You know, after all the controversy. I think we're going to see the old Tatis coming up, but I'm intrigued by Mike Schilt. And I think the new vibe in the clubhouse, I think that's going to make a big difference for this team. Are they going to be better than the Dodgers? Probably not, but I think this is a playoff team.
Oh, I think it's periphery playoff if they don't have any setbacks in the rotation.
Right.
If something happens and Darvish or Musgrove can't be you or Joe, then I think they got monster problems because then they have Dylan Cease and the young Michael King and then Heinz 57 after that. Hey, by the way, speaking of the Padres, I want to salute Kevin Acee of the Union Tribune. I don't know if you read the newspaper very much these days. He wrote an unbelievably in-depth, well-researched segment, huge part of the sports section today, on the Padres versus A.J. Preller. And then they also did a box summary of all of Preller's trades. And I'll tell you, I write a lot on my website, obviously researching what he did in a week's time to put that together. I mean, it's a volume of information. So thumbs up to the ace, because that was a job well done in terms of that research. Okay, we go from Padre baseball. Next team.
Dodgers. Here we go. Big year for them.
Whole world's in grudge mode. Whole world thinks the Dodgers violated some baseball bylaw with the deferred compensation for Showtime Ohtani, what they did with Yamamoto, the fact they spent $1.2 billion in the offseason in free agency. These are the headlines I have. Ohtani does not have a base hit since this whole episode with his private aide exploded. He's gone hitless. Will he be a distraction in the clubhouse? Will the Dodgers be able to control everything from the outside vis-a-vis the media? How will his teammates handle all the attention he's getting as a player and what he allowed to happen to himself as a person? I'm going to be fascinated to see how all that fits. Top of the batting order. Have you ever seen anything like this in modern-day baseball, John? Top of the batting order. Mookie, Showtime, and Fred Freeman.
Amazing.
Last year, 112 home runs, 125 doubles, 304 RBIs from the top three guys in the Dodgers batting order.
Oh, my God.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is.
And the middle of the batting order, Max Muncy, Will Smith down, 81 home runs, 274 RBIs. So between 1 through 6 in the batting order, that's 578 RBIs coming to home plate. Who the hell are you going to pitch around? So the Dodgers are just absolutely loaded. Huge question mark. Can their rotation, which right now is Tyler Glasnow, and then it goes to Yamamoto, who struggled, and the kids Miller and Gavin Stone, and the journeyman James Paxton, can that rotation hold up until Buehler gets back sometime maybe June 1st, May gets back July 1st, Kershaw August 1st? I think the Dodgers are going to have a good season, but I got issues about distractions, and I just wonder, do they have enough in the rotation? Can this rotation get it done? Or doesn't it matter because they're just going to beat the hell out of everybody with their bats?
Well, you remember the Padres had major makeovers of their roster. The Dodgers, I mean, it's not just the rotation. I mean, they got Teoscar, what's his name, Hernandez? Yeah, so he's a new guy in the outfield. They've got a lot of players, and they got, they got Mookie at short and Muncy, or not Muncy, but
Muncy at third, Lux at second.
Yeah, so there's all these changes. And so it makes you wonder if that chaos is going to gel, because when we see teams spend big money and go for it, most of the time they fail. Right? I mean, that's certainly true of the Padres. We've seen it with other teams, too.
But, as I said, top of the batting order, pal. 304 RBIs from your top three guys. Yeah. I don't see any of those guys failing. I'd be concerned about the pitching staff. Do they have enough in the rotation to hold up until the cavalry arrives? Or doesn't it matter? Because they're just going to hit the hell out of the ball.
Well, they're going to be great. I don't think they're 100 wins great, but I think they're still going to be top of the division. They're the favorite for the pennant in the NL. We're going to see how this goes, but I'm curious. This Shohei Ohtani distraction could be a big problem.
On we go. The other team here in Southern California, John.
The Angels. What do you say here? Rent a vets? I mean, this is another roster in turmoil.
They have Mike Trout, who has had 3 straight years of injury. He says he's back. He hit .223 in spring training. They have Anthony Rendon, 3 major injuries in 3 years, plus an attitude question. He hit .177 in spring training, and those guys played a lot of games in the Cactus League. Now, they do have some kids in place. There's no doubt about it. Logan O'Hoppe, the young catcher, that's his job. Zach Neto, young shortstop, hit .290. Nolan Chanel, first baseman, seems to have hit. They do have journeyman, I guess I'd call him, in the outfield. If Mickey Moniak can have another good season, if Joe Adell finally arrives, the number 1 pick, it's taken forever to be consistent, and I'm not even sure he's consistent. Might they have enough? But, I mean, they have to have Trout be a star and Rendon to earn his money. And, boy, that whole thing looks suspect to me. Rotation. Tyler Anderson is your ace. What?
Yeah.
Journeyman, but he's the number 1 guy. He's got the most experience. Reed Detmer's pitched really well. He's a former number 1 pick, I think, out of BYU. He got there quick, and he's gone through a bumpy learning curve. He had a good season last year. Patrick Sandoval, etc. They do have a ton of rental arms in the bullpen, obviously led by the ex-Padre Luis Garcia. And they got, they signed 11 veteran journeyman players to 1-year contracts. Ron Washington maybe is the intangible, walking around with a tub of glue, try to hold this roster together. But I just don't think they have enough. They got 2 stars, both of them coming off siege of injuries, and I don't think they have enough pitching. I could root with my heart, but boy, this just looks like it's going to be a disaster. Thank God the A's are in that division. Otherwise, the Angels might well be in last place. And your thoughts?
On one level, it makes you wonder if Artie Moreno wants to win. Right, his getting all these journeymen, these rent-a-vets. I mean, you question it, but maybe is this a year of transition? Maybe we're moving away from the big names. Those young kids are coming up, and maybe, just maybe, that farm system can produce.
Well, they've drafted a lot of kids, but that takes time. We'll spin back to what you and I argued about, talked about, preached about in the offseason. Does Artie Moreno really want to own this team? If you want to own it, then run it correctly. They're $50 million below the payroll from last season. They did not expend any of the Ohtani money on a name guy. And there's a reason all those guys, I think they signed 23 total free agents in the winter. All of them 1-year contracts. 11 of them, I think, are going to be on the Angel opening day roster. But they're unemployables. They're just guys.
Yeah.
And that's where you're spending all this money and you still have $50 million in your pocket. Where is the commitment towards the fans? Okay, here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you the records of each team. Now, if you want to yell at me, that's okay.
Okay.
If you want to agree, that'd be unique. Dodgers. Despite the question marks or maybe potential distraction, I got the Dodgers at 101-61. And John Riley in left field says?
I'm going to say they're going to win 94.
Will they win the division?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Padres. This might be the optimist in my heart. Guys have to hit back to what they used to hit. If they do, I got the Padres. If their pitching holds up, starters 1, starters 2, and they hit back, 90-72. I got them maybe in second place.
See, I'm not quite that optimistic. I'd say more like 86, 87. They won 82 last year, so I expect progress.
Angels, as much as I just critiqued them, maybe these kids are going to carry them, and maybe these pitchers will take the next step. At best, 81-81. Not a playoff team, but 81-81. Or am I crazy?
You're crazy. That division is stacked.
Yes.
So, I think the Angels are going to be lucky to win 70. It's probably going to be 60-something.
Okay, Fans Forum is open as we get to halftime. If you got an opinion on the Aztecs and UConn, I don't care where you are, jump into the chat box so we can field your questions at the end of the podcast. You're a Padre fan, you're a Dodger fan, you're an Angel fan. Jump in, give us your reaction to what John and I just talked about. John, tell them how they join us on Fans Forum, because we're going to go to it right at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, go to Fans Forum. If you've got a question or comment for Lee, drop your take in the live chat on Facebook X or Facebook X or YouTube, and we'll get you involved. We already got a number of people stacked up.
And if you like sports, I write about it every day. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. It's allwritten.com. Check it out daily. By the way, when you dial into the homepage, there's a big orange box on the right-hand side. Put your name and your email in there. That'll get you on our mailing list so you can then become part of Hacksaw's Insiders Group. And, of course, we want you to share with all your friends what we're doing on the podcasts Mondays and Thursdays, and subscribe. So the minute we put something up on our YouTube channel, you get the notification. All that part of all the things you get in addition to our Monday and Thursday podcast. We get to halftime here at the DIXIELINE Center and Homeline Center studios. A reminder, if you got projects at home, whether it's the kitchen, whether it's the family room, whether it's cabinets, whether it's doors, John Riley, they need to do what we did. Show up at DIXIELINE, tell them your needs, consult with them.
Yeah, they're great guys there. And, if you just want to paint a bedroom, it's a hardware store. It's a lumber yard, building materials used by homeowners and contractors. Been in San Diego for over 100 years.
These are the people, if you got projects, we want you to consider DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. And brought to you by North County Eye Center of Poway and Escondido. We're all going to need help with our eyes somewhere down road. When that time arrives, think North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido. Whether it's just exams, whether it's new glasses, contact lenses, or something much more significant, cataracts, glaucoma, cornea issues. They have extensive screening programs for people of all ages, comprehensive eye care, state-of-the-art technology, 11 specialists on board, 4 surgical specialists too. They've been serving people in the North County since the 1970s. North County Eye Center. We go to the second half of our opening day podcast, and we're going to take part in our Major League Baseball preview. We're going to hopscotch division by division in Major League Baseball. John, where do you want to start?
Okay, let's hopscotch to the AL East.
This was the surprise team in baseball. They've been miserable for a long time. At one point, they had a record of 45-117. They hired Mike Elias from the Houston Astros. It took him 3 years to fix it, and voila, 101 wins last season. They might be able to match it. I'm picking the Orioles to win the American League East. Why? All their kid bats are young. They've signed these guys to long-term contracts. They earned their way to the majors. They all hit well last season. Young pitching staff had some injury problems, but then they went out and they got Corbin Burns of Milwaukee, Craig Kimbrell as a closer, and suddenly they look as if they've checked every box possible. I got Baltimore winning. I got Toronto in second place. They got lots of bats, led by Vlad Guerrero, Bo Bichette. The only question I have, do they have enough pitching help to help Kevin Gausman? And Gausman has not been healthy during spring training. That's the one shortcoming, I think, with the Blue Jays. Yes, the Yankees added Juan Soto, but they've got a history of injury problems with Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and now Garrett Cole is gone 2 months with his elbow setback. In addition, their starters 2 and 3, Nestor Cortez and Rodon, are both coming back from major injuries. I think the Yankees are an accident waiting to happen, and they are so financially capped because of the salary tax. They can't make any more news. So we'll watch Soto and see how he does, but everything around Soto, I think, has got problems. In Tampa Bay, young, developing pitching, they grow it, they use it, they trade it. Zach Eflin, ex-Padre prospect, he's become the ace of the staff. They just got Ryan Pepio, hot young Dodger guy. He came in the Tyler Glasnow trade. They don't have a lot of depth, and they've lost some pitchers with Glasnow having vacated, having gone to Los Angeles in the Pepio deal. And the other story is what's happening with their top infielder, and that just terrible story with Wander Franco. In the early morning hours today, he was put back on the administrative leave list. He cannot play baseball, at least till June. They've refiled different charges about, quote, relationships, a.k.a. sex with minor girls. 3 of them now that are under investigation. He's probably looking at 5 years in prison if he gets convicted, so that's a monster blow to Tampa Bay. And once upon a time, the Red Sox were glorious, and now they're the dead Sox. You talk about a fall from grace. I don't understand this. I mean, they spent and won and went to the World Series, traded players away. Now they've cut the payroll, and their acquisitions in the offseason were nothing special, and they traded Chris Sale away. I mean, they got Raf Devers, who is a really good player. They think they've got good young guys in their farm system. I just don't know that they have enough players for them to be able to hold up in what I think is really a bitch of a division. And I'll tell you, those people are not going to be happy in the state of New England over what Red Sox baseball has become. And everybody is peeved at John Riley and the Fenway Sports Group. John Henry.
How do I get involved in this?
You'll get your chance. John Henry and the Fenway Sports Group, because they're spending more time and resources on the soccer team they own in the English Premier League, Liverpool. People in New England are just beside themselves at their method of operation. So that's what I got. Baltimore, Toronto, troubled Yankees, shortened roster Tampa Bay, big troubled roster Bo Sox. John Riley says,
this is a crazy division. By the way, isn't it interesting how whenever we do division by division, it's always the AL East is the first one. I mean, that's what everyone does. I think that all the feel good vibes with the Baltimore Orioles. They got new ownership too, and then our local guy Tyler Nevin, who went to Poway High School, he's back with the Orioles. So I'm hoping he makes the roster. I'm curious to see the Soto chemistry in the Yankees clubhouse, and if it's similar to what happened in San Diego. I have a suspicion that it will be similar. But I'm gonna call out the Blue Jays to win this division. I mean, because they've got all those young bats. It's a very interesting team. This might be their time. And then meanwhile, I think Baltimore is going to be in the wild card. The Yankees have a shot if everything comes together.
If they don't get guys hurt, but that's been the history 3-4 years in a row. I mean, their top 3 starters are either on the disabled list or trying to come back from really significant injuries a year ago.
Is Carlos Rodon going to pitch this year?
Yeah, he's there, but he's not pitched well in the spring. Not at all. And, of course, he's had multiple injuries. Ever since he signed the big money contract, he had injuries at the end of his White Sox run. And then the Yankees gave him tons of money, and he goes out and he gets hurt again. Okay, I got Baltimore to win. Let's go from the AL East. Next stop, Central.
This is the division. It's hard to figure out, isn't it, Lee?
I don't think it's a very good division. I may disagree with what some of the national writers are saying. American League Central. Headline, that's what I think. Detroit has just gone through misery, a long time losing, a lot of high draft picks. Last year we saw a really good start, but they couldn't last 162 games. They've got, I think, a collection of really good bats. Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson. They got a couple of young pitchers. Casey Mize is back after missing a year with elbow surgery. Tariq Skubal, lightning stuff, really good closer. It might be a reach. I think they might have won 74 last year. Might be a reach to win, but it's not a very good division. And they've been working so hard. And they went out this year and they stockpiled some journeyman veteran rental pitchers, the Kenta Maedas of the world. So I got Detroit winning it in a surprise. Minnesota's got Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton on big contracts. That being said, their pitching staff is torn up. And they lost pitchers in free agency, including the guy that was the ace last year, Sonny Gray, who defected. I just don't think Minnesota's got enough arms, despite the fact that they've got some guys who can swing the stick. Cleveland, they got Shane Bieber till the trading deadline, and I would almost guarantee you he will be moved for prospects then. They got Jose Ramirez, last man standing amongst all the stars that Cleveland have had. And I think the bigger question, how do you replace Terry Francona's leadership? Because that's one special, smart baseball guy. Kansas City, renting veteran pitchers. They do have Bobby Witt. They have some young prospects. I don't know if they have enough power bats, but they went out and they took the 2 Padre pitchers. So Lugo and Waka are there, though Waka's hurt already. Kansas City has invested in a lot of journeymen. I don't think it's going to make a heck of a lot of difference. And the White Sox have the kids in the outfield, Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, Jan Moncada. They added Mike Soroka, who was a once promising Atlanta Brave, has been hurt 2 years in a row, but he looks healthy, is back. They got a really good reliever in Jared Schuster. I just don't think they have enough everyday lineup guys aside from those kids, and those kids haven't been able to stay healthy either in the outfield. So I got Detroit in a surprise, Minnesota chasing them, and the rest of them will be easy pickings when you play them.
You know, it's not a bad call with Detroit because a lot of those young guys you listed, like Torkelson and the other guys, you know, those are legit prospects. Yeah. I remember when they got drafted and there was a lot of hype around those guys' names. But, you know, for me, this division is just really
ragtag.
Yeah, it's like crap. It's a crap division compared to the other 5. I'm going to have to stick with the Twins. I mean, until someone can knock them off, they're going to be the best of the worst in that division.
Where's your pitching coming from? They're pitching all over the places.
Hey, they got Chris Paddock, man. Chris Paddock's going to light it up.
You're rooting with your heart. Okay, let's move on to what's happening out here.
Oh, yeah. The AL West. Look at these 2 teams, Houston and Texas.
It's like they're on a different galaxy from everybody else.
Oh, for sure.
And the Astros, despite the fact you still carry hate about the garbage cans and sign stealing, they've been able to rebuild their team like twice in the last 5 to 6 years. Mm-hmm. Their stars are Alex Bregman in his walk year in free agency, Kyle Tucker. They added Josh Hader to the bullpen. That's a really good baseball team, but today opening day, Monday, or I should say Thursday opening day, they put 5 pitchers on the disabled list.
Uh-oh.
There is no Verlander. He's not ready. There will be no Lance McCullers. Urquidy is on the DL. They got a lot of guys hurt. So that's going to sting them, I think, early in the season. And then there's the intangible. Dusty Baker's not there. He has retired, too. So that's a story worth paying attention to. Texas, they win the World Series, but it comes at a price. They lost their TV contract. They had to whittle the payroll some. And there is no Max Scherzer. There is no Jacob deGrom. And now they lost Jordan Montgomery at the 11th hour, trying to get him re-signed to a decent-sized contract. None of this has worked. Now, that being said, they got bats. They got a lot of bats in that order, and they're going to get Seager back for opening day. The only question I have is, do they have enough pitching? Because they've got a whole pile of arms, front of the rotation arms, that are not going to be there till probably the end of May or June. I got the Angels finishing 4th. There's no Showtime there anymore, no Ohtani. They never replaced Ohtani. It's a rent-a-vet team. Ron Washington needs holy water to make this thing work. I got the Angels 4th. And Major League's natural disaster, the Oakland Athletics. No talent, no fans. When the front of your rotation is Alex Wood and Ross Stripling, I think you're in for a horrific season. And now to complicate everything, they announced yesterday, the fans did, they're going to boycott. They're all going to be in the parking lot before the A's opening game, and nobody's buying a ticket. And they're telling everybody, don't support this team. I can't imagine the misery for those players to, A, not have enough talent, look at the face of losing 120 games, and have picket lines in the parking lot, don't go into the stadium, don't buy a ticket. What are they going to draw? 26 fans? Yeah. I mean, this is awful. Okay, John, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a disaster in Oakland. I mean, but going through each of these teams, I'm still in grudge mode about the Astros and the whole cheating scandal. And it's funny, they got Hader, and you're wondering, is he going to pitch more than 3 outs? Is he going to go 1.1 innings? I don't know if he's going to. I would love to see Houston take a step back because I'm tired of their BS. But they're good. I mean, we went to the Padre game when they played at Minute Maid Field, and that's a really talented organization. I like your call. Dusty Baker, I think, makes a big difference, and he's not there. I'm going with Texas to win this division. Houston probably second, but I think the Mariners might surprise here. We've been waiting for them to do something, and maybe this is the surprise team like Arizona was last year.
Well, they got Julio Rodriguez. They added Mitch Haniger. They added Mitch Garver. They lost Tio Hernandez. I think the only thing to me is a lot of young pitching, but it's like that young pitching kind of hit a wall last season and did not take the next step over. They're going to be good, but I just don't think they're anywhere as equal to Texas.
No, they're not. But I think they can squeak into the playoffs if all goes well for them.
Okay, you're an American League fan? Jump on board now so we can get to you with Fans Forum. You got questions, we will give you answers about your favorite team in the American League. Because I guarantee you, when you hear what I have to say about the National League, you have to force your way to get into the Fans Forum. So write us a note right now in the chat box. John, let's go to the National League.
Okay, here we go. National League East, you got Atlanta and the Phillies at the top.
Yeah, and everybody else trying to play catch-up. Atlanta, big bats. Ronald Acuna, Austin Riley. Atlanta, ace of the staff, Spencer Strider. A couple of other young arms from the farm system. Atlanta adds Chris Sale, who's finally healthy after 2 years of misery, and adds Jared Kelenic, at one time a hot prospect with the Mariners. I just think Atlanta's got all the bases covered. Philadelphia, their entire offseason was making rich men of Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, and why not? Mm-hmm. Philly is really deep in pitching in the starting rotation. A healthy and happy Bryce Harper, a lot of support bats around them. And playing in that bandbox, they hit home runs. And if the pitching holds up, and I think it will, I think Philadelphia and Atlanta are going to be right there. Hell, they could wind up being tied, I think. New York Mets, the big spenders a year ago, those guys are gone. All those pitchers that were the headline guys last season left and are all hurt. The Mets have signed Japanese pitcher Kodai Senga. Second year, comes back. He's going to have to be the ace of the staff. Their rotation includes journeymen like Sean Manaea, Adrian Hauser, Luis Severino. That's in the Big Apple.
Yeah.
Big budget. That's their rotation. I think Peter Alonso's got some good bat support teammates in the lineup. And by the way, this might be his farewell tour. He's a walk free agent.
Really?
And there's no negotiations with him because he's represented by
Scott Boras.
You got it, pal. So you got the Mets in third. I think it's a disgrace. If the Oakland A's are a disaster area, what's happened in Miami is a disgrace. They fired their female general manager who helped build them into a playoff team, and she left. They got Luis Arias, unbelievably great spray hitter. They've got the feisty second baseman, center fielder, but they lose Sandy Alcantara. Poor Skip Schumacher. I don't think he's got enough pitching, and now he's down some bats too, and he's got a brand new general manager and an owner that just flat refuses to spend any money. I don't understand why Bruce Sherman's allowed to own this baseball team the way he's run this baseball team. So I get them finishing so far back they can't see first place. And they're not last because of Washington. I mean, this has really been a crummy rebuild thing that Mike Rizzo and his staff have undertaken. Washington is just, they're going to commit to kids and they're going to try to build it with kids. They got Josiah Gray, who came from the Dodgers. Mackenzie Gore came from the Padres. They've obviously got the shortstop, C.J. Abrams. They've got a lot of young kids in the system that look like they're going to be major leaguers. I don't think there's a superstar there. And then the Joey Gallos of the world. They signed a whole bunch of aging one-year rental guys. To me, it's a really ugly rebuild considering what they used to be when they had Juan Soto, what they used to be when they had Steven Strasburg, to where what they've become and what they're going to have this year. I just don't like it.
This division is interesting because there's so many haves and have-nots, right? And I think the MLB Players Union has been complaining about that. There's teams that just don't want to spend money. They don't seem like they want to win. And it's not just Oakland. You know, you were just saying it's Miami, it's a lot of other teams. But you got to love these teams at the top. The Phillies and the Braves are just tremendous. Remember we were saying last year that the Phillies had that clubhouse dugout vibe that we all thought the Padres should have had. So these two teams, it'd be a slugfest. Wouldn't surprise me to see either one of these two teams actually get into the World Series and knock the Dodgers out.
Wouldn't surprise me to see them tied for first place.
Oh, for sure.
In the National League. Okay, let's move to the next division.
The NL Central is another mess of a division.
Here's a question. How long does it take to rebuild? Are you about to turn the corner? I'm going to reach on this one, too, just like I did in the American League Central. I got Cincinnati. I have the Reds winning the National League Central. Now, they've been building for this for a long time. They got a really good number 1 in Hunter Green. They got a really good number 2 in Graham Ashcraft. They got 4 other rental pitchers that they brought in. And their everyday lineup, we didn't know these guys about a year and a half ago. We know these guys now. Eli De La Cruz, huge shortstop, big bat, unique personality. Spencer Spear, Will Benson, you name it, they've got guys. Now, they just lost their shortstop, Matt McClain, with emergency shoulder surgery. He's going to be out about a month. I got Cincinnati, as young as they are, and we saw a chunk last season where they really played well. I got the Reds winning that division. St. Louis has got Goldschmidt and Arenado, but I don't understand anything else in St. Louis. They do have a bunch of young outfielders led by Dylan O'Connell, but I don't understand their pitching. They jumped into free agency back in November, and just like that, they announced to us that Lance Lynn is going to be the front of the rotation. Lance Lynn. You're kidding me. Then they got Sonny Gray from Minnesota. He promptly got hurt. He's not on the roster right now. They got a journeyman, Kyle Gibson. This is St. Louis, which has had a history of big budgets and playing guys. St. Louis with a cardinal way of doing it. Why would you take those guys at the front of your rotation the first week of free agency when everybody was out there? You know, they supposedly were interested in Snell, supposedly interested in Jordan Montgomery. Why would you not follow through and make a run on one of those guys? Cubs, new manager, Craig Counsell. They lose Marcus Stroman. They did re-sign Bellinger. And their offseason acquisitions, Mike Bush, who's probably going to hit some home runs there at Wrigley Field, the Dodger hot prospect. And they signed one Japanese pitcher, Shoto Iminaga. He's pitched sparingly in the spring and has kind of gotten banged around. I'm not quite sure why the Cubs ownership acts the way they do. Chicago's a big market. Chicago has won. Chicago has had big budgets, and now they've kind of streamlined the thing. It's going to be an awful year in Milwaukee, and I'm talking about hot weather or snow. Here's fire sale of the roster. No Brandon Woodruff, gone for the year, shoulder surgery. Trade Corbin Burns. They did sign Rhys Hoskins. They have an outstanding young outfielder by the name of Jackson Chourio, who I think is going to start opening day. Is he ready for the major leagues? Remains to be seen. But they've really thinned out everything from a talent standpoint. It's like, I think you would call it transition year, but that normally is kind of painful. And then there's Pittsburgh. Please explain to me, when you're playing in a beautiful stadium and you get revenue sharing, why you shop at Dollar General. That's what the Pirates do. The Pirates have spent in the farm system. O'Neal Cruz comes up of the dislocated ankle. He's back. Mitch Keller took him about 4 years, arrived as the lead guy on their staff. They got a good catcher, Henry Davis, but they've rented a bunch of arms in the rotation. And, I'm just not sure that some of the guys that they've added, the Martin Perez's of the world, the Marco Gonzalez's, who are fringe starters, that's going to be the bulk of their rotation. So it's a shame. I see pictures of PNC Park on the Pittsburgh sky. It's the most beautiful park in Major League Baseball, John. And I just don't understand this method of operation in Pittsburgh. They're insulted that I said you shouldn't shop at Dollar General stores. That's what the hell that is. Your reaction to NL Central?
It's like the AL Central. It's like this quagmire of teams that are all kind of middling.
Rebuilding,
or whatever you want to call it, So your call on this Reds that's not a bad call there. I mean, that Ellie De La Cruz is like another Tatis, another Acuna, one of these really super dynamic players. But I'm going to go with Chicago. I mean, I like Craig Counsell. I think that's a good spot for him to go. And I don't think there's any dominant team here. But yeah, Pittsburgh, that's Mrs. Hacksaw's team, right?
Oh,
and how's she handling it?
She yells at that like she yells at the Steelers on TV. She yells at the Pirates on TV, too. Okay, let's move on. National League West, here we go.
Here we go. This division is stacked.
Dodgers, big bats. We've already kind of alluded to that. The top three in the batting order combined 304 RBIs. The next group, 175 RBIs. They're going to hold their breath. Will the pitching hold up without some of the guys that are starting the season on DL, who will be back by the time we get to May or June? But this is a really good team with a lot of big boppers. And I guess the intangible question, does Ohtani become a distraction in the clubhouse, or will Shohei be showtime? So we got that. Arizona. I wasn't sure that last year was for real, but they did get to the Fall Classic, the World Series. I wasn't sure they could hit the reset button and do it again, and then they get Jordan Montgomery on a one-year, $25 million rental. They needed him because Eduardo Rodriguez, their other free agent signee, the pitcher from Detroit, just went down with a lat problem in his shoulder, and they don't know how long he's going to be out. They did add some rental bats in Eugenio Suarez from Seattle, Jock Peterson from the Giants, and the lineup. I'm going to steal this phrase from San Diego. You look at their batting order, hot lava. They've really got a lot of good young players there in Arizona. I think Dylan Cease's arrival with the Padres is a huge insurance policy. My only concern is, will we see you and Joe, Darvish and Musgrove be what we've seen the last couple of years, or will we just need to be patient? I think Michael King will be rock solid as number 4. They're 9 deep on the bullpen. Your batting order. Every one of those guys underachieved last year compared to their career statistics. They were down here. Their batting order without Juan Soto. Will they be able to score lots of runs? San Francisco pushes their way back into pennant conversation. This Blake Snell signing, as big as a financial gamble as it is for San Francisco, you get Snell, you get Logan Webb, you got 3 other young arms in the rotation. The batting order has gone through a radical cleansing. Matt Chapman comes in, Jorge Soler comes in. Going to really be intrigued to see how good Jung-Hoo Lee is, the young outfielder. Frisco right now, since the arrival of Snell, I think, is going to be better than anybody realized. And in Colorado, I think I'm going to send my St. Francis of Assisi medal to Bud Black. You know, the saint for lost causes.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. I feel so bad for Bud Black. That owner, Dick Monfort, that's a disgrace. You own and you run what could be a great regional franchise, the Rocky Mountain regional franchise, that once upon a time drew 4 million fans per game, and you treat it like this. They're trying to develop young players. Chris Bryant has never been able to stay healthy. The young stars to pay attention to are Nolan Jones, the outfielder, Ezekiel Tovar, the young shortstop. Charlie Blackmon is still there. The pitching staff does not have German Marquez because of elbow surgery. He's going to miss maybe most of the year. Does have Kyle Freeland, does have the ex-Padre Cal Quantrill, but there's just not a lot there. So that St. Francis of Assisi medal goes to Bud Black. It'll be delivered probably by Sunday. It's too bad because that could be potentially a great regional franchise, and I just don't agree with the way Dick Monfort runs that franchise. John, that's the National League West. I'm sure you got different opinions.
Well, yeah, I do. I mean, I think you can't question the Dodgers are probably going to win the division, probably by a lot. I still am not really comfortable with Arizona. I mean, the way they was a miracle last year. They got all the way to the World Series, but since they got to the World Series, it's hard to pick against them. You know, the Padres, we talk about them ad infinitum. I think they're going to rebound. I love Jackson Merrill. I love Mike Schilt. The Giants are fascinating, you know, but again, a huge number of new guys. Can they make the chemistry work? I don't know. But two comments. Colorado, Bud Black. Isn't it he in a situation was kind of similar when he was here with San Diego? You know, it was a team, low budget, wasn't really trying to win. Small market. And I've seen there's a picture of you on Twitter that circulates where it's you and Bud Black and AJ Preller.
At a Christmas party.
Yeah, it's a great photo.
I was lecturing them about what I thought.
Oh, good. Well, did they listen?
They said, thanks for coming.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's where we are. This is fun. I hope you have enjoyed our baseball preview because now it's your opportunity. Our podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 stores in San Diego to serve you. You got projects in the home, out on the patio, near the swimming pool, or at work? Think DIXIELINE Lumber. As we like to say, build it or fix it. You will enjoy it in 2024. And by North County Eye Center of Poway and Escondido. We will all need help with our eyes somewhere down road, whether it's just eye exams, new glasses, contact lenses, or something much more significant from cataracts on. Think about them. North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido. Fans Forum. You think a few people have some opinions about what I said or what you
You know they do. So we'll get some fans forums in here. I know we're kind of on a tight schedule. We've got that 1 o'clock game about to start. John says, what a day. MLB opening day, NCAA Sweet 16, and let's throw in some NHL. I might need to get another clicker for my TVs.
Yeah, John is a longtime follower, listener who lives in the District of Columbia, so he's not real happy with the Washington Nationals. But yeah, I wrote a column. Those of you who have never sampled my website, I'll invite you to go to it if you're a baseball fan, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. I wrote a one-man's opinion column today. I think John may have seen it. Maybe John will post it later. It's on the history of opening days in Major League Baseball and why it's really special. So if you get a chance, check my website before the first pitch and just read it, MLB opening day.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of tremendous content on your website. I mean, it blows me away. I'll be posting that tonight at about 7:15 or so. But even the best 15 minutes in sports is just terrific. The way you break it all down, and it's just bullet point information, quick hitting. And you can get that by going to the website or signing up for Hacksaw's Insiders Group.
Because we mail out the best 15 minutes in sports to all of our Insiders Group, too. Next question.
Okay, let's talk about, from Steve said, and he's talking about Padres and Fernando Tatis. Steroids helped him. Mention the steroids.
Well, if he has another 250 season, and if the home runs are not what they were a couple years ago when he stroked 42, I think you have to think that, as he roared through the minor leagues and got to the majors and had success immediately, was some of that fuel-driven? Now, he never failed a drug test till post-surgery, and he can stand by his explanation. He did something stupid that he bought on the black market that he should not have done. I just think that's too good a talent. Now, in his regard, remember, he was coming off surgery a year ago this time, and he had the 20-game suspension after the 60 games at the end of the prior season. So he had not really played very much for well over a year, and he was coming off the wrist surgery, and he was playing right field, so there's a bit of a learning curve there. Let's just see if he bounces back and can be a 35 or 40 home run guy who hits for average, because I had forgotten that he only hit 257 and only hit 25 home runs. I mean, we're so enamored with his ability to play in right field and his gun for an arm. Some of the offense kind of went away. I think it's doubly hard this year because there is no Soto in the middle of the lineup that I think would make everybody else more dangerous.
Well, he's right that you have to mention the steroids with Tatis. My instinct, though, is that he wasn't taking them before he got busted. I think it was part of the rehab that he was trying to get a head start on. We were, my wife and I were at spring training a few weeks ago, and we were on the back fields, and we saw Tatis just barreling every ball, and even in the games, too. I think he's going to have a huge bounce back year. I think he could be an MVP candidate this year in the National League.
Okay, Padre fan, doing a podcast from left field. Next question.
Okay, let's go to social media. We got a lot of comments here as well. And right here, this is a good one. This is from Phil. He says, so glad Hacksaw started getting all digital. He's needed a voice in this current sports media landscape.
Oh, Phil. Phil doesn't know the real story, that John and I met by accident, and he sales pitched me to do this. I said I'd try it. And, of course, I had already built my website, which was going pretty well, and this thing has exploded. So you're correct, Phil. I've kind of moved into the 22nd century almost. And that's a lot for somebody who's still got a Royal manual typewriter in his garage.
Yeah, I believe that too, that you have the old school typewriter. But it is great, and we get comments like this all the time on social media, so I like to sprinkle them in once in a while on Fans Forum.
Thanks for the compliment, Phil.
Okay, let's go here, talk a little NFL. This is from Euphoria Deep. He says, as for all for the new kickoffs, anything beats a touchback and another TV timeout. The new tackle rule is just stupid.
Well, the whole thing has become so dangerous, and that's what this rule change, and it's pretty radical. And for the fans that don't know, let me just use him as a prop, so you don't have to carry this segment. John is kicking off to me. John's kickoff guy is at his own 35, but the kick cover team will line up at my 40. That's right. He'll kick from his own 35. The guy's trying to go down the field and make the tackle line up at the 40. My blockers on the kick return unit line up at the 35. There's only 5 yards between your guys and my guys. And I can have 2 guys return kickoffs. Now, this is an XFL rule. Nobody at either line of scrimmage can move. The ball is kicked off. It is fielded by my return guy. But those blockers and those gunners cannot move off the line of scrimmage till the ball is actually caught. I saw 5 different videos of XFL games, and the average returns were in excess of 25 yards.
Really?
Because these guys are catching it, wide open space, there's no gunners, and they get their own running start. And the guys who are at the line of scrimmage, they're not blowing off the line of scrimmage. They're trying to get down the field from absolutely standing still. You know, the old rule is those gunners are flying by the time they get to the 50-yard line, and the contact deep in my territory is really fierce. So this will be dynamic. It's going to be different. There won't be any more bleeping touchbacks. The kick return guys are important. The day they passed the rule, the Pittsburgh Steelers signed one of the top kickoff return guys in the league, Cordarrelle Patterson, who scored 9 touchdowns on kick returns with Atlanta. The Steelers signed him. So suddenly the guys who are returning kicks, they're going to have chances to bust big ones because the blocking will be different, and everybody's going to go back into the marketplace and say, okay, I need somebody that's going to run a 4-3 who's got good hands. He's going to be my kick return guy. So I like the rule. And again, it's all under the umbrella of making the game safer because the violent collisions have led to just a lot of serious injuries.
Yeah, clearly it's going to be it's about safety. You know, just while we're sitting here at the table, you know, and you're showing the 35-yard line, the 25-yard line, you ever play table football?
No, not recently. Not
you know, with the triangle paper, you try to get it over the edge. I love that game. I still think, though, when they do this new kickoff rule, you're going to get a lot of old school traditionalists. And like, what is this BS? What is the NFL doing? You know, people are going to complain about it. It's going to be kind of weird. I've often wondered, as kickers have gotten so much better at putting it in the end zone, why they don't move the kicker back, you know, like to the 20-yard line. I mean, obviously that would create a bigger collision, but I'm surprised leading up to it, we haven't seen that change.
Well, they've jerry-rigged this thing, changed it maybe 3 times in 5 years. If you kick it into the end zone, it's a touchback, the ball comes back to the 30. So you're giving my team line of scrimmage, 30-yard line. Mm-hmm. So therefore, it's really mandatory that you put it in play. You try to drop it between the 10 and the 5, force them to field it, and then make sure your guys can get down the field to make the tackle. There is no fair catch anymore in NFL kick returns. You can't be doing this.
That always struck me as weird on a kickoff.
Again, that was all a byproduct of we want to stop these head-on collisions.
Well, and it's also really weird to me when guys are doing the fair catches, whether it's, especially on the punts, when they do a fair catch inside their own 10. Yeah. And I'm like, what are you doing? Just let it hit and let it go in the end zone. It seems like, where the ball comes out has changed a lot over the last few years. It used to be the 20, maybe it was the 25 for a while, and then if you kick it out of bounds, they get it
to 35.
The 35. So all these intricacies about this, but I mean, what are the alternatives for a kickoff?
I mean, this is all about safety. You know, you raise a point about the old school guy screeching. The NFL Competition Committee brought in 6 veteran special teams coordinators who took part in the breakfast sessions talking about how this thing should be structured, line of scrimmage, who's a gunner, who can go down, who can't go down, your return men, the blockers and where they're located. So they got input from these guys who live these X's and O's every day of their life. So this was not some vice president of rules who never played the game saying, let's do this. This was input from every one of these special teams coordinators.
Yeah, it's great they're doing this input, but again, if the kickoff went away, I wouldn't have a big problem. If they started the game with a coin flip and whoever won the coin flip gets the ball on their own 20 or can defer, I'd be okay with that. But I'm not sure what this new kickoff thing's going to be like. I think it's just going to be weird. There
was a proposal, as you say, eliminate the kickoff, line of scrimmage 25. Did not get a vote.
Not even a vote?
Nope. Yeah, there's a dynamic part, and kick return touchdowns, punt return touchdowns change the game just like that.
Oh, yeah, they can.
So that's why they want that aspect of the game in a much safer situation. Okay, let's move on.
Moving on. Okay, let's talk Chargers. This is from Tex McBoog. He says, neither side won, the Keenan Allen trade, but y'all keep forgetting that Harbaugh, a quarterback, does not value the wide receiver in his style of offense that others do. Most of the philosophy boils down to fewer possessions for both teams and shortening the game. Passing teams are hurt by this greatly, while being very efficient scoring per possession. Run the ball, play defense, keep the clock moving.
I agree, Tex, but you got to have the personnel to run what Harbaugh is trying to or will try to run with the Chargers. The Chargers have the 5th pick. They are being pursued by people that want to trade into that slot. Suddenly, it looks like all the world's quarterbacks are going to go in the top 5 picks. That's the rumor, that there's a huge trade rumor out there involving Minnesota at 11, the Raiders at 13. Now Denver's into the mix. So we got those guys that are sandwiched 11, 12, and 13 are all trying to jump ahead. So the Chargers could well trade down. Chargers this week and next week are bringing in for personal evaluations the top 4 offensive tackles, which leads me to believe, as Tex would say, they're going to run the ball. And now they're going to have to develop some other young wide receivers to go with Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer, who are the only 2 ones really left from the old regime. But I think they're going to get more linemen, and then they can go into the draft and they can get some wide receivers in the 2nd or 3rd round. The radical thing would be they don't take a tackle at 5, they keep the pick, and they take one of the top 2 wide receivers. If this quarterback thing evolves the way it's rumored, all of a sudden Marvin Harrison is there at 5, or Malik Neighbors from LSU, who ran a 4.3 in the combine. He's there, and those are the top 2 wide receivers. I'd be stunned. I think, as Tex says, they'll play hardball ball, which means they're going to run the ball, which means they definitely need one of those stud tackles, and they've got one running back, and they're going to go get another running back. So, and that I think you can go get wide receivers and find them in the 2nd and 3rd round. But I'm shocked. I mean, I know it was a salary cap driven thing, but Keenan Allen was just spectacular for almost a decade, and Mike Williams was good when he could stay healthy, and they don't have a tight end who can catch the ball. So poor Justin Herbert's having lunch today with an empty backfield, empty roster in terms of big play, experienced wide receivers. But I think they're going to draft offensive tackle. Next couple of weeks, we're going to zero in more specifically on the draft.
Well, you've been commenting previously that the running back position has been devalued, that they're not giving as much money to the running backs. Do you think we might see that with wide receivers?
No. Everybody wants a Jamar Chase. Everybody wants a Devontae Adams. Mm-hmm. You just go find the right guy and hope you can keep him healthy, and you hope he's the guy you hit the jackpot on. Now, they're not devaluing that at all. It is interesting, though, what happened in the first 48 hours of free agency? All those running backs are available or gone. All of a sudden, Derrick Henry is in Baltimore. All of a sudden, Austin Eckler gets a big contract to go to Washington. So I'm not sure I buy this thing devalued. Nobody wants to pay him $8 to $10 million. But these guys got paydays, and these guys, they're going to be an integral part of what new coaches and new systems are going to run.
Who is the highest paid wide receiver in the league, and how much does he make?
Oh, I think it's Tyreek Hill in Miami now. I want to say last year was in the mid-30s, and it bumps up. So he's set the high water mark, and everybody's now trying to play off that. So Devontae Adams, I think, was making $24 to $25 million with the Raiders. And there's some guys who are about to become free agents. Jalen Waddle of Miami, who is on the other side of Tyreek Hill, he becomes a free agent right now. He's talking, I want 24. So, and I was told that the Charger wide receiver who got traded refused to take the pay cut and then turned around and said, I'll restructure. You got to pay me 24 next year. And the Chargers said, no, we're not going to do that. And within 24 hours, they traded him to the Bears.
Well, talking about Devontae Adams, I mean, is he still kind of disgruntled in Vegas?
He runs hot and cold.
Yeah.
He went there to obviously be with his former Fresno State teammate, Derek Carr. Then Carr got bounced. And then Garoppolo arrived. And then Garoppolo had all those injuries. And he's still there. They can't really trade him. They don't want to trade him. But now, it's almost as if he's standing on the corner by himself because a quarterback's gone and Josh Jacobs has gone to Green Bay. It's just not the same Raiders offensive package that 2 years ago today, you're looking at all the names on the whiteboard and say, damn, they got a lot of good talent, skill talent. Mm-hmm. Devontae's the only one left.
Yeah, the only guy left. But I'm intrigued. You said Tyreek Hill's making over $30 million a year, but most of the running backs make less than 5, right? I mean, so
the star running backs. I mean, Derrick Henry. Well, Christian McCaffrey is the exception of the rule. I think his numbers are 10 or 11. Derrick Henry was second most, I think, at 8. Eckler, after all those good years with the Bolts, was trying to get above 6. Mm-hmm. So the stars are still making good money. Their situation is their careers are probably shorter because of the wear and tear factor.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, wide receivers can last a little longer.
Let's do one more here.
One more. Okay, let's talk Aztecs. We got the big game tonight, and this is from Tony, and he says, I think that San Diego State three-point shooting has been artificially depressed by Dutcher, trying to force three-point shots to get the kinks worked out. I won't expect UConn to defend the three poorly, but there's room for Dutcher and coaches to be flexible and make UConn prove they can defend both Ledee and the perimeter. I expect a good rock fight of a game all the way to the end, and it's possible the Aztecs can pull off a win.
Only if the backcourt hits threes. And by the way, UConn's defense against the three, 31%. Their defense against the three. Mm-hmm. And they got big guards. So their big guards are doing this. In terms of San Diego State, I just don't think there'll be any low post game at all for Jaden Ledee. I think that they're going to have to get him on the ball at the foul line. If he can make Klingon, the 7'2" center, come out, maybe Ledee can put it on the floor and go by him. But I don't think he's going to be able to low post, do any turnaround bank shots or anything. Everything Ledee does today, I think, has got to be 10 feet and in either side of the lane or at the top of the key. And he's really good. And I'm not going to say he's going to shoot a lot of threes, but they're going to have to get him in space so he can pull square and shoot. And I think the Aztec defense, they have to hit threes to loosen up UConn's defense, because if they have to come out and defend them because these guys are drilling threes, and I think you'll see State take a lot of threes early to see if they have rhythm. If they have to come out to defend them, that means Ledee's going to have some space maybe to drive and put it on the floor and try to score. I think it's an enormous challenge because UConn is so big and they're so good defensively. They're better defensively than San Diego State is, and we know how legitimate all things Aztecs are. But hey, they're playing. There's a hell of a lot of people that are not playing basketball beginning this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, this is, in my opinion, this season is a success. Yeah. If they made the Sweet 16. And if they can, pull off a victory here, what did I say, a 1-3 chance? It might be 1-4, 1-5. It's going to require them to do everything right. But they have the players, they have the ability, and they've had those moments when those guards have gotten hot on the perimeter.
I mean, it was amazing. I mean, a team that was 306th in the country last week shooting threes, hit 13. Hit 13
so
threes
they can do it
in that win. So they did it in that game. But this is a different team you're playing. That's UConn with hands in your face and big guards and that big center. So it'll be fun. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our opening day special Thursday podcast. Thanks for joining us early. A reminder, we want you to subscribe to everything we do. Therefore, you'll get all the alerts when we put things up on our YouTube channel. Please check my website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. As John says, there's an absolute ton of stuff I put on it, including a very special One Man's Opinion column today on the history of the opening day of Major League Baseball. And, of course, we'll be back here on Monday at 1 p.m. to talk about the start of the season and evaluate where we are in March Madness. Our podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center Stores, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego, and by North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido, been in business serving people here in the North County since the 1970s. John, let's go get some sub sandwiches and beer. Here comes baseball. Then we got basketball. Have yourself a great sports weekend, and we will talk on Monday.
Well, we'll have a lot to talk about on Monday, but today is going to be a great day.
And thank you for being with us. Great to have you part of our team on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps.
Touchdown, San Diego!
For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.